Hi, I would like to talk about the short story Karma, written by Khushwant Sai in 1950. Khushwant Sai was born the 2nd of February 1915. He is an Indian novelist and journalist. He's best known for his humorous texts and his abiding love of poetry. He uses his text to compare social and behavioral characteristics of the Western world compared to the Indians. I want to start off by giving a short summary of this story. So the story is about a man called Mohan Lal. He is a middle-aged man and he works in the British Raj. He is ashamed to be an Indian, and that is why he is trying to be an English talking Indian. He dresses up like a man of power and a very important high-ranked British official. He spends his time filling in crossword puzzles and trying to show off his immense knowledge of the English vocabulary. He is married to his wife. She's called Lakshmi, and she is the traditional Indian woman. And due to their differences, their marriage is not as good as it could be. Well, the important events of this story takes part on a train. So this train is divided up in the upper class and the normal class. So Mr. Mohan Lal sits in the upper class with his posh accent and his fancy clothes, while his wife sits in the lower class with all the normal Indian people. When he gets to his seat, he sits down and he tries to talk to some people when he notices two British officers walking in the door. And as soon as he tries to talk to them, they see right through his mask and they see who he really is. And they don't care for people who pretend to be English, so they call him the N-word and they kick him off the train. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the different characters in this story. So first off, I want to talk about the main character in the story. His name is Sir Mohan Lal. He is a well-educated Indian man because he spent 5 years at Oxford University in England. He feels like he's raised above everybody else, especially the people from India. So he is born in India, and when he got older, he decided to move to England and study. He hates his country and all the things about it. He's really ashamed of where he's from, and he clearly shows that in the text. He's even ashamed of his wife, his Indian wife. Being British means a lot more to him than being from India and caring about India. He shows that by reading through all the British papers on the train, being well dressed, drinking English scotch on the waiting lounge. He is a very posh person. He does not care about anyone else but himself. He loves himself. He sees himself as an icon of excellence, but that's not the case. Okay, the other important person in this story is his wife. His wife, Lady Mohan Lal, acts like a traditional Indian woman. She spits and chews the betel sativa, which is a very common thing in India. She's not very well dressed like her husband, and she does not feel equal to him. Even at one point in the story, she calls him her master. She does not have anyone to talk to at home because her husband does not really want to talk to her. She sits in the lower class of the train and he sits in the upper class of the train, and this is a typical sign of power in the family. And then we have two other really important characters in the story, the two policemen. The two policemen are from Britain stationed in India, and those are the people who notice who Mohan Lal really is, and those are the people who tries to stop him from being an idiot to everyone else. Okay, so now I want to talk about the setting in the story. The setting is on a crowded train in India. So the train is divided into, there's the first class and then there's the lower class. Let's start by looking at the lower class of the train. So the lower class of the train is really crowded and full of Indian people, young to old. And then there's the higher class, reserved for the higher people in society with higher social class, and that is both Indian and English people. And the way we can see that it is reserved for higher class people is because there is newspapers and you can put your bags over your head, and it's not that crowded as the lower class. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about the main theme of the text. The main theme of the text is karma. And if you don't know what karma means, it means good or bad luck viewed as resulting from one's actions. So that is perfect, perfectly describing this text, because this text is about a guy who spends all his time being a prick to everyone else and letting everyone else down, and that comes around and gets him kicked in the butt. So how did this happen? This happened when two British officers walked onto the train and walked into the first class and sat down. So the first thing they see when they walk into the first class lounge is an Indian guy dressed to the nines with his British papers, looking all posh. So one of the police officers walks up to him and starts talking to him, and he calls his friend over, and the friend says, there's a quote on page 5, line 1, and it says, "Get the nigger out," he muttered. So they both look at Mr. Mohan, they see right through his facade, right through his British poshness, and they kick him straight off the train. And that pretty much perfectly emphasizes karma, because if you let someone down, or you spend your time being a prick to someone, it's gonna come around and kick you in the butt. And another big theme in this story is you can't leave your roots. Mr. Mohan tries to ditch his roots. He tries to become something he's not. He spends a lot of time working on being British, and that doesn't really work for him. And a famous quote by the late and great Brad Pitt says, "Sticking feathers up your butt does not make you a chicken." And that is perfectly emphasized in Mr. Mohan's case, because he spends all his time saying, "I'm British, I'm British, I'm British," when he should really say, "I'm Indian and I'm proud of it." So I want to round off this text analysis by comparing the text to a current issue. The issue I am talking about is the crisis of all the people migrating to different countries and fleeing from war. So let's take Denmark, for example. Denmark in the last couple of years has taken in a lot of people who are fleeing from war and bad stuff happening back home. And as in the text, as soon as they get here, they're not viewed as Danish citizens. They are viewed as migrants, and they are viewed as people who come here just to take all they want, even though they're trying to adapt to the Danish culture and adapt to the Danish way of life. So this text is still really relevant, even though it was written 68 years ago. Perfect, and that's all I got for my text. Godt, og nu skulle jeg snakke om, hvordan jeg selv vil vurdere min analyse. Jeg synes, min analyse var fin. Jeg synes, jeg kom godt rundt med forskellige punkter, hvor jeg dykkede ned. Jeg kiggede på karakterer, jeg kiggede på setting, og jeg kiggede på selve the main theme af den her historie. Jeg synes godt, jeg kunne have brugt nogle flere quotes, det er jeg godt klar over nu. Da jeg godt kan se, at det jeg ikke beviser, at det jeg siger, jeg har ikke så mange belæg for mine påstande, om man så vil. Men jeg synes all in all, at det gik sgu meget fint. Jeg tror, jeg har forstået, hvad den her tekst egentlig omhandler, og jeg tror, jeg har forstået, hvad ham her, forfatteren Kushwat Shaikh, han prøver at sige omkring det her emne. Så det var egentlig bare det.